Welcome, everyone. I'm Mark Walmsley. I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're a growing global community of over 185,000 now, right across the arts, all over the world, borderless, no national, political, or religious affiliation. We're a bit pirate and we're certainly independent. And I don't get to meet everybody, but when I do, it's a pleasure. And Parisa Golchoubian has joined us as a full member recently. So this is a wonderful opportunity to introduce you to her. As a community, we're entirely member funded. We don't have any shareholders, grant-making bodies, advertisers or sponsors telling us what to do, and that's the way we'd like to keep it. So Parisa, thank you so much for joining me today to do this, and thank you also for being one of our full members. It's very much appreciated. Now you're in Thailand at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Because you're a nomad.
That is correct.
I love this. I absolutely love this. We've been chatting for a while, but this is we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to create your fantasy cultural year from the answers to some easy questions to which there are no wrong answers. I found it's a nice way to pull out anecdotes, surprises, conversational detours. So we'll get started with that in a moment. But before I do, I wonder if you'd be kind enough to say hi to everyone. Tell us a little bit more about you. You might want to hint at the superpower we discussed, and where your passions lie, both professionally and personally.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm really excited to be here and um, I'm really excited to meet more everyone in the community. So thank you for having me. I'm Parisa and I'm an artist, engineer, and entrepreneur. I'm experienced and I'm passionate about art, technology, storytelling, and using those as a form of healing both our species and our planet. And the way that looks like in my body of work is that I'm a painter. So I create a lot of work with the mission around bringing awareness to environmental causes, particularly marine life. I I also run a web design agency where I specialize in helping other artists with their Shopify websites, branding, and online presence. And I have a creative studio where we take on all sorts of different collaborative projects with other artists, other organizations, with the ethos of using art as a form of impact.
Love that. I'm
Yeah,
just going to share my screen so that we can have a look at your website. Perhaps you could give us a little quick tour. Does that sound okay?
absolutely.
Here we go. So this
Which one is it?
is,
I have a few.
yeah, I know, this is the one that links from your LinkedIn page. So
Mhm.
this is parisa-golchoubian.com. Is this the right place to look, or would you like me to go elsewhere, Instagram, for
No,
example?
this is great. This is kind of where everything else is branches from here. So this is a good place to start.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
One thing that caught my eye, was, and perhaps you could tell us about this, especially with the marine influence, is this mural. It's an example of your nomadic travels because it's in Colombia. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorites for sure. So I've been a nomad for the past 5 years and I visited 28 countries during this time. And one of the ways that I just love to connect with the community wherever I go is through art and the power of art. And this particular one is in Colombia, Medellin. So Medellin has this history of, especially this one neighborhood called Comuna 13, has this history of transforming through the power of art. So they used to have a lot of issues around violence, and I mean, it's Latin America, so we've all heard the stories. But essentially, there's a history of how this community transformed through art, through murals. And nowadays, like this particular community, it's like an art scene. Everybody visits the comuna because of the murals, because of the hip hop, like all these things. So I was passing by and I put in a little bit of an effort to connect with our community, and they were very welcoming and very friendly. and they were very open to the idea of collaborating, and that's how the idea of painting this mural came to be. So we essentially like collaborate. I collaborated with a local artist named Usuga there, and I explained my vision that I want to paint an underwater scene that looks familiar, like Little Mermaid or Finding Nemo. But then once you actually start to zoom in, you see all the debris and the plastic that is weaved in through the coral, which is unfortunately the reality of the ocean. And he was
This
very
is
interested. He's very interested.
sorry, I love it. I think it's great. The mural idea is lovely. In the UK, I recently was involved with a project matching up underprivileged community members with international muralists, and the work that they produced was fantastic. I also have a bracelet that tracks a whale as
Oh,
well.
wonderful.
This is great. So if you'd like to find more, just search for Parisa online or go to parisa-golchoubian.com, and you'll find all of this here. That's fantastic. Right, you've given me the inspiration I need now for our fantasy cultural year. And and I have a magic wand and a time machine. Okay. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what's your favorite building?
Okay. So I'm very fascinated by the older buildings that use architecture as a way to integrate into the local, um, how do I put this? Like they integrate sustainability practices, for instance, in Iran, which is what my background is from. There, I mean, a lot of Iran is deserts and it's really warm. And if you look at the historical buildings of that age, like they're built with certain considerations to keep the building very cold during summer. It kind of feels like a natural air conditioner that is in the building. And I find that really fascinating how people can actually use laws of architecture to be able to just build something that is so in harmony with nature. And I find that is not something that we do enough of in this modern age.
So is there a particular building that highlights that?
There's plenty of this style, and it's really unfortunate that I don't know the term in English for what it's called, but there's plenty of buildings in the city of Yazd, Kashan, and
How do you
many
spell
other.
that? How do you spell that?
Yazd is Yazdzd.
A
And
city in, okay.
yeah, there's Kerman is another city. There's plenty, like it's kind of like the known architecture
Okay.
of these cities. Yeah.
So here's Yazd.
Hmm.
I would like you to imagine you're sitting at a pavement cafe, okay,
Hmm.
within sight of one of these buildings, probably this one, okay?
Okay.
Um, and there is a drink on the table next to you. It's 6 p.m. on a June evening. The sun is shining, and there's a drink next to you. What would we find there?
I drink, and it's in Yazd. Okay. Um, it's probably gonna be like what in Farsi we call a sharbat, which is some form of yeah, it's a cold drink. It's a cold, refreshing drink. Um, that is usually, I mean, it's again in Iran. It probably has saffron in it, some mint,
Mm.
saffron.
Is
Yeah.
is Sharbat like sherbet? The English?
More or less. It's a little bit different, but yeah, I would say more
Love
or less.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's a book on the table next to you.
Mm.
It could be a favorite book. It could be a book from childhood. It could be a recent discovery. What book would we find next to the Sharbat there in Yazd?
I mean, I'm a huge bookworm, so I'm always reading, but since we have to stay on theme, so we're in guest. So it's going to be a Persian poetry book, probably something from Hafiz or Rumi. Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Love that. And you've got headphones on and there's music playing. What would we hear?
Oh, again, I'm struggling not staying on theme. So it's probably gonna be some traditional Persian music as well.
See, that's just summed it all up for us. It's lovely. We can feel it. Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've just come from a meeting in that building with a wealthy Iranian family foundation, okay, who like to support artistic projects. And
Mm.
they've learnt about you and your nomadic travel the world through art, um, and your fascination for anything marine. So they would like to hire you for a year, okay? And they'd like you they're also fascinated by your left and right brain combination, okay? They'd like to hire you for a year to travel the world to find other creative technologists or technological creatives who seem to inhabit the space between creativity and technology. They would like you to interview those people, work with them, create art with them, think about ideas with them. So there'll be a TV crew following you because they want to document this. There's a book deal in it. When you get back, you'll be doing a TED talk, and you will be invited on morning television to explain this phenomenon that is this nomadic two-brain kind of society, almost global society. And you'll be invited to do a global university lecture tour as well. So it's first class all the way.
Mhm.
The fee and the repeats are huge. So you're going to become the go-to commentator on this phenomenon of people who sit at the sweet spot between creativity and innovation and technology. Does that sound like fun to start with?
That sounds like something I would want to manifest. So yes.
Excellent. So all you have to do then is to decide where you're going first.
Mm. Well, there's so many great places in this world where I've built projects on around exactly what we're talking about. So I kind of want to I've had ideas around all the plastic that is collected and all the stuff we can do with them when it comes to creating art and telling stories. And they're usually the places that come to my mind are in Southeast Asia. So there's a whole lot of plastic that washes through to the shore in this area of the world, in Thailand and Bali and Malaysia, like this whole area. And I've always wanted to create more art with that to tell stories because I have that other side of the brain, which I know a lot of data. I want to use art to give people a feeling about that data. For example, I'm
Fantastic.
working on a project right now to give you an example. Um, the average Canadian like uses 150 kilograms of plastic per year, which plastic is very light. So that's a big number, but people don't understand that number. So I'm currently working on a project in Canada to actually be able to visualize that so that people can in an artistic way understand their plastic footprint.
Right. I love that. There is a there's a team of artists in Mombasa in Kenya who make sculptures out of discarded flip-flops.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Excellent. So where are we going? Give me a location.
Let's go to Bali.
Bali. Wonderful.
Yes.
Let's go to Bali. Now, you get on the plane, you turn left on the plane. Might not
Okay.
be terribly sustainable, but you turn left on the plane. Um, You're brought a Shabbat and a note from the Family Foundation. They have a challenge for you. They would like you to limit your musical listening to one very specific genre or type of music for 12 months, to the exclusion of else.
Okay.
What would you choose?
Probably indie music. Yeah. I just
Indie.
indie. Yeah. I
Okay.
just yeah.
Who
I
might
just,
appear on the playlist?
oh, there's so many. Um, I'm really obsessed with this artist at the moment called Nika. She's Haitian, Haitian French, and she creates a lot of really beautiful work, and I think she's gonna become big someday. But there's
Who was
quite a
that
few.
again? Nika.
Nika, yeah.
Nita. Okay. That sounds great. I'm going to have to explore that. These
Hmm.
chats are wonderful for me because you're educating me, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, okay, now you arrive in Bali and a group of young artists and creatives and technologists take you under their wing. They take
Mhm.
you to a beautiful villa that's yours, with some wonderful views. And they say, settle in, relax, unpack. We're coming back later to take you to a dance performance and then out to dinner. Now, this is where the magic wand and the time machine comes in, because you don't have to remain in Balinese culture. I can put any dance performance on the stage in front of you. It could be any dance group, any dance style, any dancers, living or not. Um, what would you like me to put on the stage for a couple of hours that's a dance-based performance?
Wow. These are so hard to pick. There's so many good ones. Um, but for some reason, the first answer that came into my mind was the flamenco dances that I saw in Spain. I don't know why, but yeah, I think I really
Flamenco, Spanish
flamenco.
flamenco.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
just like the expression of like
the
the
passion and
the pa yeah.
yeah, great, love it. It just so happens that the World Flamenco Championships, if there is one, are happening in Bali, so we go to that. Now, in Bali, they have restaurants with cuisine from all over the world. You don't necessarily have to stay in Southeast Asian culture for your dinner. So, if you could choose any national cuisine, what would you choose?
Ooh, I mean, Bollywood has a good variety of food anyway, but I would definitely go Middle Eastern or
Mm,
Mediterranean. Like, yeah, I love Greek food as well.
mm,
Uh, yeah,
Middle Eastern or
yep,
Mediterranean.
yep.
Nice. Love that. Mm. Now we're going to buzz again somewhere else. Where else are we going on our trip?
Um,
You
let's
can go
go,
anywhere in the world.
yeah, let's go on the other side of the planet. Let's go to Mexico.
Mexico. Okay, it's
Yeah.
sport day in Mexico when we arrive.
Okay.
We've had dancing in the ice dancing in the Olympics. We've got break dancing in the Olympics. We've got dressage, synchronized swimming. Some performance art constitutes, so some sports are effectively performance art. But
Yeah.
I can put any sporting event in front of you, or you can take
Mhm.
part if you prefer. What would you like?
Um, since we're on the arts theme, I think like yeah, a lot of the gymnastic stuff I find very artistic. Like they're
Gymnastics. Yeah,
yeah,
especially rhythmic gymnastics.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, great choice. Now we're going to buzz again. Where are we going from Mexico on our
Um,
whistle stop tour?
well, let's go to Italy.
Okay,
Yeah.
where would
Yeah.
you like to go to in Italy?
I have a lot of love for the Tuscany area.
Would that be
Yeah.
Florence?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Florence is considered Tuscany. Yeah.
I'm going to Florence in April. I've never been. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, you're gonna love
Um,
it. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, in Florence, quite appropriately, there is a new digitally enhanced art gallery.
Hmm.
You can put on a virtual reality headset and step into the work of a famous artist. It becomes three-dimensional. It's 360 degrees. There is movement and there is sound. If you could do that, which famous artist's work would you want to step into, to walk around inside it?
Um, it's really funny because this is actually the type of stuff that I do. So it's, I mean, there's so many good ones, but I feel very connected to Monet's work just because I feel like a lot of my own art in a very critical moment of time was informed by Monet.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that would be a really cool experience, just like the fluidity of his work and how that would really be cool in a VR experience. Like there's a lot
That
you
would
can do
be.
there. Yeah.
We can walk through the poppy fields,
Yeah.
the Monet poppy fields. That's great.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to whisk you back to London, okay? And we're going out together every night of the week to do something cultural, okay? On Monday, we're going to back in time to a pop concert or a rock concert or a music event. Tuesday is theatre. Wednesday is a West End or Broadway musical. Thursday is opera. And Friday is film night. And between us, we can decide what we see. So, is there a concert that you've been to that you would love to be able to go back in time and experience again?
Um, yes, there is, but I think it's more so like because it's really nostalgic for me than anything. Yeah. Um, I remember the first time I went to a Backstreet concert, it was very nostalgic for me. It was back
Backstreet
in the
Boys.
yeah, back in the
That's
teenage days.
fine. We can do that.
It's like,
I think they
yeah,
just played at the Sphere in Las Vegas, didn't they?
they did, I think.
Let's
Yeah.
go there. We're going there. We're
Yeah.
going to see the Backstreet Boys in the Sphere in Las Vegas. Wonderful. What about a theatre play? Now we're in London now, so it could be the Globe Theatre for some Shakespeare. Is there a play that you'd like to see?
Yeah, I just watched Hamlet, so like a Shakespeare would be nice.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen it yet. Is it good?
it's really good. Yeah,
Um,
I recommend.
did you go to the cinema for it, or did you?
No, actually, like in my co-living here, we kind of had a movie night and we watched it all together.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Hamnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. Great choice. We'll do some Shakespeare. Um,
Mhm.
what about a West End or a Broadway musical? We can go back in time to the premiere if we want.
Ooh, I haven't been to one in ages. I don't know. That's a hard one, Mark. Give me
And
some.
we could do Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's so innovative, you know. Um,
I'm down. Let's
yeah,
go.
let's do Hamilton. Are you
Yeah.
an opera fan?
Um, more or less, not that much, but I don't mind.
Do you
A
have
few of it.
a favorite, or would you like me to suggest one?
Yeah, please suggest one. I don't think I can.
I think it's got to be Tosca by
Okay.
Puccini at the Royal Opera House in
Mm.
London. And what about a movie? Now, this one, I'd like you to choose a movie that you love that I probably haven't seen.
You haven't seen.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I don't know what you're into, Mark. So like, I don't, uh,
A favorite of
um,
yours, then, on a big screen.
I mean, I love all the Nolan stuff. The
Chris-
Interstellar is probably one of my favorite ones, but I'm guessing you've probably seen it. It's, um,
I'd watch Interstellar with the picture off because I love the music.
I know
But
the
let's do
music's
Interstellar because that would be fantastic because we both enjoy that.
okay.
Um, and before I send you off now on your year of study and meeting people, I'm going to give you what we call the hero lunch.
Okay.
So we're in London. We found a beautiful Middle Eastern restaurant, and you can invite one person to join you for lunch. It can be anyone you like, famous or otherwise, and historical figures are acceptable. So if you could
Mm,
have a leisurely 2 hour lunch with somebody, who would you do? Who would you choose?
wow. I recently been studying some of Tesla's work, and I've been really fascinated by how this guy thought. And I think he was so ahead of his time that probably some of his theories we're going to just understand like maybe hundreds of years from now. So I would really like to pick his brain on some of my own theories and ideas. Yeah.
Brilliant. Nikola Tesla,
Yeah.
you're invited to lunch. Wonderful. There we go. That's your fantasy cultural year, Parisa. You carry on. You've made a real impact. You've put together a fantastic TV documentary. The book's out. TED Talk is on the way, and you're about to go and do that global university lecture tour. Have you enjoyed your fantasy cultural year, Parisa?
It's, it's been amazing. Can't wait for the book to be out.
Great. Thank you so much. Wherever this appears, there'll be information about you and the work you do, links to you. But for the time being, thank you so much for joining me today to do this, and thank you so much for being one of our full members. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, Parisa.
Of course. Thank you for having me and for putting together this wonderful community. I very much look forward to joining more of these.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.